My name is Julissa Pierce. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, I collapsed at my desk at exactly 11:52 p.m., a hemorrhagic stroke. That's what the doctors called it. They said I was less than 48 hours away from permanent brain damage, or death. The hospital called my mother at 7:10 a.m. By 9:40, she was standing in my room. By 3:20 p.m., she had already decided that my older sister's wedding venue tour in the Bahamas couldn't be postponed. By 7 p.m., my entire family was boarding a flight to Nassau, and I spent 7 days in the ICU alone, or at least, that's what I believed, because when I finally opened my eyes, weak and disoriented, a nurse placed a tablet in my hands and said softly, "You should see this." It was the visitor log. One name, the same name, every single night. A name I had never heard before. A man who stood outside my glass door for 3 hours on the first night, just watching me breathe. A man who paid my entire $141,000 hospital bill in cash, and demanded that his identity remain hidden. And when my mother saw that name, the look on her face told me everything she had been hiding for 32 years. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe, but only if you truly believe that real family isn't about blood, but about who stands by you when you're at your lowest. I'd also love to know, where are you listening from right now, and what's the temperature there? This is a fictional story, with some elements enhanced by artificial intelligence to make it more vivid, but the emotions you're about to hear are very real. Now, let me take you back and show you how everything really began. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., my phone rings. Not because my mother misses me, not because she wants to hear about my week. No. Sunday at exactly 6 p.m. is when my mother, Eleanor Pierce, calls to go over expenses. "Julissa, sweetheart," she says, her voice wrapped in that soft, syrupy tone she only uses when she needs something. "Your father's SUV needs new tires. That's $520. And your sister's wedding planner needs the deposit. $2,400. A pause, then casually. "Oh, and the electric bill was higher this month. Can you send another $350? I did the math while she talked. 520 plus 2,400 plus 350. $3,270. On top of the $900 I already send every month. Mom, that's over $3,000. I just sent money last week." Her tone changed. "Not much, just enough. You don't have a family to support. Julissa, no husband, no children. Your sister, Vanessa, is getting married. She needs help. You make good money. What else are you spending it on?" I wanted to say everything. My rent, my student loans, the savings account I keep draining every time she calls. The house I'll probably never be able to afford because I keep choosing them over myself. But I didn't. I never do. "I'll transfer it tomorrow," I said quietly. "Tonight would be better." She replied, "The shop closes early on Mondays." After she hung up, I opened the spreadsheet I'd been keeping since I was 25, 7 years of records. Every dollar I'd sent home, every emergency, every loan that was never paid back. I scrolled to the bottom. Total $192,860. I stared at the number until it stopped looking real. I make $132,000 a year, after taxes. That's around $97,000. I've been sending them an average of $27,500 every year, nearly a third of my life. Gone. I scrolled through the reason column. Vanessa's car payment, Vanessa's credit cards, Vanessa's apartment deposit, Vanessa's vacations, Vanessa's dental work, Vanessa's designer handbag for a job interview. 90% of the entries had her name on them. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. A photo of a wedding dress. Strapless. Lace. Elegant. Expensive. Isn't it stunning? It's $500. Mom said you'd help with the dress. Also, I need $28,000 for the wedding fund. You're the maid of honor, so you should contribute the most, $28,000. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. I'll see what I can do. She replied instantly, a heart emoji. Later that night, my mother called again. You're going to love the Bahamas, she said cheerfully. The resort has an infinity pool overlooking the ocean. Vanessa found it on Instagram. I can't go. Mom, the IPO is in 3 weeks. I can't leave right now. A sigh. Sharp. Disappointed. Jalissa, you always have an excuse. Work. Work, work. Vanessa wanted you there to help choose the venue. I thought this was just a venue tour, not the actual wedding. It is. But she needs your opinion. And since you're not coming, the least you can do is pay for the trip. Your father and I can't afford it. The least I could do. Flights were $2,600 for 3 people. The resort was $3,400 for 7 nights. Food, tours, and extras would be another $2,800. Total $8,800. I'll transfer it tonight, I said. Thank you, sweetheart. You know how much this means to Vanessa. Yes. I knew exactly how much everything meant to Vanessa. After the transfer went through, I checked my bank account. Balance $4,615. 17 days until the IPO. 17 days until my stock options vested. 17 days until I could finally breathe. I told myself I just had to hold on a little longer. Just a couple more weeks. Just long enough to make it through. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, doing something I had done more times than I could count. Comparing. I'm 5'9". My mother, Eleanor, is barely 5'4". My father, Daniel Pierce, is shorter than me. Vanessa is 5'5". I have blue eyes. My mother has brown eyes. My father has brown eyes. Vanessa has brown eyes. My hair is light brown, almost blonde when the sun hits it in summer. Everyone else in my family has dark hair, almost black. When I was 16, I asked my mother about it once. Just once. Why do I look so different? She looked at me like I had said something unforgivable. What do you mean by that? Jalissa, what exactly are you implying? I never asked again. My phone buzzed, pulling me back to the present. An email from my CEO, Marcus Hale. Jalissa. Timeline accelerated. IPO moved up to November 24th. I need the full operations audit done by the 12th. You're the only one I trust with this. November 24th. 2 weeks earlier than planned. I closed my eyes slowly. 17 days just became 10. The next several weeks blurred together into a haze of fluorescent lights and cold coffee. Our CFO quit without notice less than a month before the IPO. Marcus handed me everything. Investor reports, compliance filings, operational audits, due diligence packages. I worked 16 hours a day, sometimes 18. I slept 4 hours a night, sometimes less. Meals became protein bars at my desk because walking to the kitchen felt like wasted time. At my last physical, my doctor had looked at me with concern. You need to slow down, Ms. Pierce. Your blood pressure is not normal for someone your age. I didn't slow down. The IPO was worth over $12 million in funding. 40 employees depended on it. And my stock options, if we succeeded, they would be worth nearly $300,000. I just had to make it through. Another email from Marcus appeared on my screen. I know this is a lot, but if we miss this window, we lose everything. I need you on this. I started typing a reply. My head was pounding. It had been for days. I told myself it was stress, dehydration, lack of sleep. I reached for my water bottle. My hand missed. I frowned and tried again. My fingers didn't respond the way they should have. Something felt wrong. The words on my screen began to blur, then shift, then rearrange into shapes that didn't make sense. I blinked hard. I need to call someone. I reached for my phone. My arm didn't move. Panic hit me, sharp and sudden. The last thing I remember is staring at my laptop screen, the cursor blinking on an unfinished sentence, and then the floor rushing up toward me. Darkness swallowed everything. Later, I was told the night security guard saw me collapse through the hallway camera at 11:52 p.m. By 12:05 a.m., I was in an ambulance. By 1:20 a.m., I was in the emergency room at Northbridge Medical Center. Diagnosis: hemorrhagic stroke. The ER doctor called my emergency contact at 1:20 a.m. No answer. Again at 1:50 a.m. No answer. Again at 2:35 a.m. Still nothing. At 5:50 a.m. They tried one last time. No answer. At 7:05 a.m. my mother finally picked up. I don't remember the ambulance. I don't remember the ER. I don't remember the machines, the scans, the voices. Everything I know comes from what the nurses told me later. 4th floor, room 412, intensive care unit. Intensive care unit. Glass walls facing the hallway. Monitors beeping in a steady, mechanical rhythm. Fluorescent lights that never turned off, no matter the hour. My phone sat untouched on the bedside table. 4 missed calls from the hospital to my mother. No calls returned. Later, I read the nurse's note from that morning. Patient Pierce, Julissa M. Emergency contact notified at 7:05. Family confirmed arrival ETA 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. My parents lived in Brookhaven Heights. That was a 25-minute drive. They arrived at 9:40 a.m. My mother, Eleanor. My father, Daniel. My sister, Vanessa. They stayed for 34 minutes. I didn't see any of it. I was unconscious. But the hospital cameras recorded everything, and Claire Donovan, the ICU nurse, told me the rest. Vanessa never stepped into my room. She stayed in the hallway, scrolling on her phone, complaining that the hospital smell made her nauseous. My father stood near the elevators, making phone calls I still don't know the purpose of. My mother spoke with Dr. Patel for 11 minutes. Then she walked into my room. She stood there, looking at me. Tubes in my throat. Machines breathing for me. My eyes closed. And she checked her watch. At 10:14 a.m., they left. 34 minutes. Claire told me what happened next because she overheard my mother speaking on the phone in the hallway before they walked out. The doctor said she's stable. My mother said, a pause. Probably Vanessa on the other end. Stable means she's not dying right now. Right. We can still make the flight. Another pause. I know. But Vanessa needs this trip. The wedding is in 3 weeks. If we don't look at venues now, when will we? Another pause. Julissa will understand. She's always been the responsible one. Stable. What the doctor had actually said was, stable, but critical. We need to monitor her closely for at least 72 hours. There's still a high risk of complications. My mother heard one word and ignored the rest. At 3:30 p.m., while I lay unconscious in room 412, my mother left me a voicemail. I listened to it 5 days later, 14 seconds long. Julissa. Sweetheart, the doctor said you're stable. Your father, Vanessa. And I have to go to the Bahamas like we planned. The tickets are non-refundable. I'll call the hospital to check on you. Just rest. Okay. Vanessa really needs me for this trip. We'll be back next week. 14 seconds. She didn't say I love you. She didn't say I'm worried. She said Vanessa needs me. Then she hung up. At 6:42 p.m., while my blood pressure was dropping and the doctors were preparing me for more scans, Vanessa posted an Instagram story. A photo of the three of them at the airport. Gate 18. Oceanic Air Flight 771 to Nassau. My mother smiling. My father looking exhausted. Vanessa in the center. Flashing a peace sign. Caption Bahamas. Here we go. 130 people viewed that story in the first hour. If you think my family did the right thing by leaving me in the ICU just to go on a trip, comment trip. But if something about that choice doesn't sit right with you, if you feel like no one should ever be left behind like that, comment heartless. Sometimes a single word says everything we're feeling. I'm really curious to know which side you're on. Their trip attracted a lot of attention, and among those they met was someone they never expected. I'll tell you more about it right now. At exactly 8:05 p.m., a man walked into Northbridge Medical Center. He approached the front desk calmly. "I'm here for room 412, he said. "Julissa Pierce." The receptionist looked up the system. "Are you family?" "Sir." "Yes." "Your name?" He didn't hesitate. "Adrian Cole." They handed him a visitor badge and let him in. He took the elevator up to the 4th floor. Then he walked down the hallway until he reached room 412. And he stopped. He didn't knock. He didn't ask to go in. He didn't call for a nurse. He just stood there, outside the glass door, looking in. For 3 hours. The ICU hallway cameras recorded everything. At 8:05 p.m., a man in a gray suit, silver hair, around 60 years old, stopped outside my room. 8:20 p.m. Still standing, not moving. 8:50 p.m. A nurse approached him. He shook his head. She walked away. 9:35 p.m. Still there. Hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the glass. 10:20 p.m. He sat down in the hallway chair, but his gaze never left me. 11:05 p.m. He stood again, walked up to the glass, pressed his palm against it, stayed there for several long minutes. At 11:17 p.m., he finally walked away. 3 hours and 12 minutes. Claire Donovan, the night nurse on duty, was the one who approached him earlier that evening. She had been working in ICU for over a decade. She'd seen everything. "Sir, can I help you? Would you like to go inside?" she asked. He shook his head gently. "No. I just want to make sure she's not alone." "Are you family?" He hesitated. Something passed across his face. Something heavy. Regret. Maybe guilt. Maybe both. "Yes," he said quietly. "I'm family." Claire handed him the tablet for the visitor log. He typed a name. Adrian Cole. Then he went back to standing outside the glass, as if that was the only place he believed he belonged. Later. "Claire told me, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've seen every kind of family, but I've never seen anyone stand outside a glass door for that long, like they were afraid they didn't deserve to go in." He came back the next night. 7:50 p.m., same gray suit, same silver hair. This time, he brought a laptop, sat in the hallway chair, worked quietly. Every few minutes, he would look up, at me, at 9:40 p.m. He closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the door, and this time, he went inside. Claire watched from the nurse's station. He pulled the chair closer to my bed, sat down. He didn't touch me. He just looked at my face. For a long time. Then his lips moved. Claire couldn't hear what he said through the glass, but she saw it. Later, when she asked him, He only gave a small, broken smile and shook his head. He stayed for 48 minutes. Then he left. Claire added a note to my file that night. Visitor Adrian Cole stated my daughter upon entering. Relationship unverified. Attempted to contact family. She called my mother. No answer. She called again. No answer. A third time. Voicemail. Claire pulled up the visitor log. November 18th. Adrian Cole. 8:05 p.m. to 11:17 p.m. November 19th. Adrian Cole. 7:50 p.m. to 11:38 p.m. No Eleanor Pierce. No Daniel Pierce. No Vanessa Pierce. Just Adrian Cole. A man none of us had ever heard of. A man who said he was my father. Claire told me she stared at that screen for a long time. I've seen families fall apart in hospitals. She said, people show you who they really are when someone they love is dying. She looked at me then, her voice softer. But your family, they didn't even show up. She paused. And this man, this stranger, stood outside your door like he didn't believe he had the right to come in. Her eyes didn't leave mine. I didn't know who he was to you, she said quietly. But I knew one thing. He cared. That was the only thing that mattered. Whoever he was, he cared. On the morning of November 21st, Dr. Patel ordered another CT scan. Something wasn't right. My vitals were stable, but they weren't improving. The swelling in my brain should have been going down. It wasn't. By 9:40 a.m., the results came back. Myocarditis. Secondary inflammation of the heart muscle. A complication triggered by the extreme stress my body had gone through during the stroke. Claire told me later that Dr. Patel's voice was calm, but urgent. If we don't operate within 48 hours, she has about a 40% chance of never waking up. 48 hours. The surgery would cost $47,000. They needed family consent. Claire called my mother again. It was the 7th call since I had been admitted. This time, someone answered. Hello. My mother's voice was light, relaxed. In the background, Claire said she could hear waves, music, glasses clinking, laughter. Mrs. Pierce, this is Claire Donovan from Northbridge Medical Center. I'm calling about your daughter, Julissa. Oh yes, my mother said. How is she? She's stable, but there's been a complication. She needs emergency surgery. There's inflammation affecting her heart. If we don't operate within 48 hours surgery. My mother interrupted. Her tone sharpened immediately. What kind of surgery? And how much is this going to cost? It's a cardiac procedure. The estimate is around $47,000. Silence. Then, disbelief. 47,000. Who's paying for that? Doesn't she have insurance in the background? Vanessa's voice rang out. Mom. The diving instructor is here. Claire steadied her voice. Mrs. Pierce, we need a family member to sign the consent form, and we require a $15,000 deposit before 6 p.m. Today to proceed. Another pause. Then my mother said, Can you email me the form? I'll sign it digitally. A beat. As for the money, send the bill to Julissa's address. She makes good money. She can handle it. Claire told me her grip tightened on the phone so hard her knuckles turned white. Ma'am, your daughter is in a coma. She cannot pay anything right now. She has savings. My mother replied casually, I'm sure she does. Look, I can't just leave right now. Our return flight isn't until Monday. Just do what you need to do. Julissa has always been good at figuring things out. And then, the line went dead. 12 miles away from the hospital, in a glass office on the 32nd floor of a building in downtown Harbor City, Adrian Cole received a phone call. It was from Marcus Hale. Mr. Cole, I wanted to update you. Julissa Pierce, our director of operations. She's still in ICU. The hospital says she needs emergency surgery, something with her heart. Adrian's hand tightened around the phone. How much, I'm not entirely sure. They're asking for a deposit. Her family is apparently out of the country and unavailable. A pause. Then, calm and decisive. I'll handle it. Sir, you don't need to understand. Adrian said quietly. Focus on the IPO. I'll take care of Julissa. He ended the call, then immediately made another one. Marilyn Cross had worked in hospital billing for over 15 years. She had seen everything: insurance disputes, payment plans, bankruptcy filings, emergency crowdfunding campaigns, but nothing like this. At 3:40 p.m., her system alerted her to an incoming wire transfer. $142,000 from AC Holdings Group to Northbridge Medical Center. Memo: full payment for patient Julissa Pierce. Room 412. Anonymous donor. Do not disclose identity to patient or family. $95,000 for ICU care. $47,000 for surgery. Paid. In full. Marilyn Cross stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she pulled up my file. Julissa Pierce. Emergency contact Eleanor Pierce. She glanced back at the payment source. A C Holdings Group. Not Eleanor. Someone else. She picked up the phone and dialed the number attached to the transfer. It rang once, twice. Then a man answered. His voice was deep, calm, controlled. This is Adrian Cole. Mr. Cole. This is Marilyn Cross from Northbridge Medical Center Billing. I'm calling to confirm your payment for patient Julissa Pierce. It's confirmed. He said. The funds have cleared? Yes. Sir, I just need to verify your relationship to the patient for our records. A brief pause. Family. He said. Can you be more specific? Sir, are you her? I'm her father. Marilyn glanced back at the file again. Emergency contact Eleanor Pierce. Father Daniel Pierce. She hesitated. Sir, our records show the patient's father is Daniel Pierce. There was silence on the line. Longer this time. Then he spoke again. Quieter. There's more than one kind of father. Ms. Cross. Another pause. Please process the payment. Make sure she gets the surgery she needs. A breath. And don't tell her it was me. Not yet. The line went dead. Marilyn slowly lowered the phone. She looked at the confirmation on her screen. Then she turned her head toward the ICU wing, visible through the glass corridor outside her office. Down the hall, outside room 412, she could see him, sitting alone, gray suit, silver hair, laptop closed on his lap, eyes fixed on the glass door. She whispered to herself without realizing it. That man is the only family that girl has. At 5:50 p.m., local time. My mother finally sent the signed consent form. Attached was a short message. I've signed the form. I expect insurance to cover most of this. If there are any remaining costs, please send the bill directly to my daughter, Julissa Pierce, at her home address. She earns well and can take care of it. Eleanor Pierce. She didn't ask about the surgery. She didn't ask if I would survive. She just assumed that even unconscious, even dying, I would still pay for everything. Marilyn read the email twice. Then she looked at the payment already sitting in the system. $142,000. Paid in full. Anonymous. She hit reply. Mrs. Pierce, the account has already been settled in full. There is no remaining balance. She didn't explain further. She let my mother wonder. I don't remember being taken into surgery. I don't remember the anesthesia. I don't remember the 4 hours and 30 minutes I spent on that operating table while Dr. Leonard Hayes worked to repair the damage to my heart. But I know who was there. Adrian Cole sat in the surgical waiting room from 6:50 a.m. until 11:35 a.m. He didn't read. He didn't work. He didn't check his phone. He just sat there, holding something in his hand. Claire saw him during her break. She told me later what it was. A photograph. Old. Slightly faded. A young woman with dark hair. Maybe in her 20s. Laughing at something outside the frame. He kept running his thumb along the edge of the photo. Over and over. Like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. At 11:28 a.m., Dr. Hayes came out of the operating room. The surgery was successful, he said. She's stable. She should wake up within 24 to 48 hours. Adrian stood up. For a moment, Claire thought he might collapse. Thank you, he said. His voice broke slightly on the second word. Are you family? The doctor asked. Yes. Would you like to see her in recovery? Adrian hesitated. For a brief moment. Something passed across his face. No. Not yet. He said quietly. She should see her family first when she wakes up. The doctor frowned slightly. Sir, you are family. Adrian gave a small smile. The same quiet, fractured smile Claire had seen before. The kind that carried more pain than comfort. He picked up his coat, slipped the photograph back into his wallet, and walked out of the hospital. He didn't stay to see me wake up. When I finally opened my eyes, the world came back slowly. White ceiling, fluorescent lights, the steady, rhythmic beeping of machines. I was alive. I turned my head slightly. Every movement sent pain through my body, and I looked at the chair beside my bed. Empty. No flowers, no cards, no balloons tied to the railing, no family member slumped over, exhausted from staying too long, just an empty chair, and on the bedside table, a full glass of water. A blanket folded neatly at the foot of the bed, sharp and precise like it had been done with care, and a book I had never seen before, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Hardcover, old, but carefully preserved. It wasn't mine. I had never read it. I didn't even remember mentioning it. So where did it come from? Claire walked in a few minutes later to check my vitals. Julissa, you're awake. Her smile was immediate, real, relieved. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck? I whispered. My throat was dry, my voice barely there. How long was I out? 5 days, she said gently. You had a stroke, then surgery for a heart complication, but you made it through. You're going to be okay. 5 days. My mind struggled to catch up. Where's my family? Claire's expression shifted. Just slightly. Your family is in the Bahamas. They'll be back Monday. The Bahamas. A faint memory surfaced. The trip. The resort. The money I had sent. They didn't come back. She adjusted my IV line, avoiding my eyes for a moment. Your mother called a few times. She signed the consent forms electronically. Called, I asked, but didn't come. No. I stared at the ceiling. The silence pressed down on me heavier than the pain in my chest. Then something clicked. The water. I said slowly. The blanket. The book. Where did those come from? Claire paused. There was someone, she said. Someone, a man. He came every night while you were unconscious. My chest tightened. What man? He said he was your father. I let out a weak breath. My father is in the Bahamas. Claire shook her head gently. This man wasn't Daniel Pierce. She set down the blood pressure cuff and looked at me directly. He gave a different name, and he came every single night, stayed for hours. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. The first night, she continued softly. He stood outside your door for over 3 hours. Didn't come in. just watched, like he was afraid he didn't have the right. My fingers tightened slightly against the sheet. What was his name? Claire reached for the tablet at the nurse's station and handed it to me. He signed the visitor log every time. You can see it yourself. My hands trembled as I took it. I scrolled through the entries. November 18th. Adrian Cole, 8:05 p.m. to 11:17 p.m. November 19th. Adrian Cole, 7:50 p.m. to 11:38 p.m. November 20th. Adrian Cole, 7:35 p.m. to 10:20 p.m. November 21st. Adrian Cole, 7:05 p.m. to 11:50 p.m. Every single night. Only one name. Adrian Cole. No other names. No Eleanor. No Daniel. No Vanessa. Just Adrian Cole. Every single night. The repetition felt unreal, like my mind was refusing to accept what my eyes were clearly seeing. Who is Adrian Cole? I whispered, my voice barely holding together. Claire didn't answer immediately. She looked at me in a way I couldn't quite read. Careful, measured, like she was deciding how much truth I could handle all at once. He said. She hesitated, then continued softly. He said he's your father. My breath caught in my chest. For a second, everything inside me went completely still. I reached for her laptop, my fingers trembling as I pulled it toward me. My body was still weak, my hands unsteady. But I forced myself to type, Adrian Cole, Harbor City. The search results loaded, and in that moment, something deep inside me shifted. Adrian Michael Cole, age 64, CEO, and founder of Cole Capital Group, private equity, assets under management $2.4 billion. A photograph appeared on the screen. Silver hair, blue eyes, tall, composed, standing in front of a glass building with his arms crossed, wearing a calm, controlled expression that somehow felt both distant and familiar. I stared at that photo longer than I realized. Blue eyes. I have blue eyes. My mother has brown eyes. My father has brown eyes. My sister has brown eyes. The memory surfaced without warning. Where did your blue eyes come from? Julissa. I had asked that once when I was 16. Just once. My mother had gone completely still. Why are you asking strange questions? She snapped, her voice sharp enough to shut down anything I might have said next. She never gave me an answer, and I never asked again. My grandmother had died before I was born. I had never seen a photo of her, never heard a real story about her. That had always been the explanation, the convenient silence that filled in the gaps. But now, I was staring at a man on a screen whose eyes were the exact same shade as mine, the same color, the same intensity. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't be. My fingers moved again, almost on their own. Cole Foundation Scholarship. A website appeared. Clean, professional, carefully designed. I clicked into the higher education section. A list of scholarship recipients by year filled the screen. I scrolled slowly, then faster, and then I stopped. Julissa M. Pierce, University of California. Westbridge. Julissa M. Pierce. Julissa M. Pierce. Julissa M. Pierce. Westbridge School of Business. MBA program. My name. Repeated. Year after year. The scholarship. The one I had received in my sophomore year. The one that paid for the rest of my undergraduate degree and my entire MBA. The one that had come out of nowhere. No application. No interview. No explanation. Just approval. I remembered how confused I had been back then. How grateful. How relieved. And how my mother had reacted. You think you're so special because you got that scholarship? She used to say, don't let it go to your head. You just got lucky. Lucky. The word echoed in my mind now. It wasn't luck. It was him. My eyes shifted slowly to the bedside table. The book. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Carefully, I picked it up and opened the cover. On the first page, written in neat, steady handwriting, to my daughter, I hope one day you'll understand why I stayed away. A C. My vision blurred. It took me a second to realize I was crying. Tears slid silently down my face as everything began to connect in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. The scholarship, the investment, the man outside the glass, the payment, the name. I reached for my phone with shaking hands and dialed Marcus Hale. He answered almost instantly. "Jalissa, you're awake. Thank God." "We've been, Marcus." I cut in, my voice unsteady but urgent. "I need to ask you something." A pause. "Okay. The biggest investor in our company. Who is it?" Silence. Then another pause. Longer this time. "Why are you asking that? Coal Capital?" I said quietly. "They invested in us." "Didn't they?" More silence. Then, slowly, carefully, "Julissa, how do you know about that?" I didn't answer his question. When I asked, "When did they invest?" he exhaled. 2021, he said. Series A, $2 million. The same year, everything in my life had started to change. The same year I joined the company. I swallowed hard. Did he ask for anything I asked? When he invested? Did Adrian Cole request anything specific? There was silence on the line. Longer this time. "Julissa, I don't understand why you're asking this." "Did he?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "He asked to remain anonymous. He didn't want his name mentioned to any employees." A pause. And. Marcus hesitated. "He asked to be informed if anything ever happened to you." My fingers tightened around the phone. "If anything happened to me?" "Yes." My heart started pounding. "He called me the night you collapsed." Marcus continued. "Before I even knew what had happened, before the ambulance report came through, he asked which hospital you were being taken to." I closed my eyes. He knew. Before anyone else. "Julissa," Marcus said quietly. "Who is this man? Why does he care so much about you?" I looked down at the book in my lap, at the handwriting on the first page. "To my daughter, I think," I said slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's my father." 7 days later, Monday morning, at 11:40 a.m., my mother walked into the hospital lobby. I didn't see it myself, but Claire told me everything, and the security cameras captured the rest. Eleanor Pierce looked different. Her skin was sun-kissed from a week in the Bahamas. She wore a bright floral dress, sandals, and carried a duty-free shopping bag in one hand. She walked straight to the front desk. "I'm here for my daughter, Julissa Pierce. Room 412. I need to sign the discharge papers." The receptionist, a young woman named Lila, pulled up my file. "Of course." "Ma'am, let me just check the account status first." "My what?" "The billing." "Ma'am, I need to confirm if there's any remaining balance before discharge." My mother frowned slightly. "Just send whatever bill there is to Julissa's address. She can handle it." Lila glanced at the screen, then back up. "Ma'am, the account has already been settled. There's no remaining balance." My mother froze. "What do you mean?" "Settled by insurance." "Number, ma'am?" "A family member made a direct payment." "How much?" $142,000. The silence that followed was heavy. "What family member?" my mother asked slowly. "Who paid?" "I'm not authorized to disclose that information." Lila said. "The donor requested anonymity." "Donor. My mother's voice sharpened. No one in my family has that kind of money. She leaned forward. Let me see the visitor log. I want to know who's been coming to see my daughter. Lila hesitated, then handed over the tablet. My mother scrolled. November 18th. Adrian Cole. November 19th. Adrian Cole. November 20th. Adrian Cole. November 21st. Adrian Cole. November 22nd. Adrian Cole. November 23rd. Adrian Cole. No Eleanor Pierce. No Daniel Pierce. No Vanessa Pierce. Just Adrian Cole. Claire told me later it was like watching someone see a ghost. All the color drained from my mother's face. The tablet slipped from her hands and hit the floor. She didn't even react. She just stood there, staring. Adrian Cole. She whispered. Ma'am. Are you okay? Lila asked. My mother didn't answer. She knew that name. Claire said my mother walked toward the ICU like someone walking to their own execution. Slow steps, shaking hands. She turned the corner and stopped. About 20 feet away, sitting in the hallway chair outside room 412. Was Adrian Cole? He looked up. Their eyes met. 32 years. That's how long it had been since they had last seen each other. He stood up slowly. He didn't move toward her. He just stood there, waiting. Adrian, my mother whispered. Her voice was barely audible. He didn't answer right away. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he spoke, his voice low, controlled. Every word deliberate. 32 years. Eleanor, 32 years. She flinched slightly. My daughter grew up believing she wasn't loved. He continued. For 32 years, I stood on the outside, looking in. And this past week, I stood outside that glass every night, watching over her, paying her bills, making sure she wasn't alone. He took one step forward. And where were you? My mother opened her mouth, closed it again. No answer came out. You were in the Bahamas, he said, on a vacation your daughter paid for, while she was lying here, dying. Adrian, I didn't know you knew enough. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The hospital called you. The nurses called you. You knew she needed surgery. You knew she needed someone. A beat. And you chose a trip. My mother's shoulders trembled. 32 years? He said again. I stayed away because I thought it was better for her. Because I believed she had a family that loved her. Because I didn't want to destroy her life with the truth. He looked at her then. Not with anger. Not even with pain. With something colder. I was wrong. My mother's face collapsed. Adrian, please. I'm done staying away. He said quietly. I'm done standing outside the glass. He turned toward my room. Today, I walk through the door. My mother didn't follow him. She just stood there, frozen. I was sitting up in bed when the door burst open. My mother rushed in. She looked wrong. Her skin still sun-kissed from the trip, but her face pale underneath, her eyes wild, her hands shaking. Julissa, we need to talk. I didn't answer right away. I was looking past her, through the glass, at the man standing in the hallway. Silver hair, blue eyes, my eyes. Who is he? I asked quietly. Who? The man out there. The one who's been here every night. My voice steadied. The one who paid for my surgery. Silence filled the room. The one named Adrian Cole. My mother went completely still. Julissa, listen to me. Is he my father? Silence. The kind that answers everything. Mom. My chest tightened. Is Adrian Cole my father? Her eyes filled with tears. It was 1992, she whispered. I was young. I made a mistake. A mistake, I said. I loved him, she said, her voice breaking. God help me. I loved him. She sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. But he was nobody back then. Just a junior engineer. No money, no stability. And then his company sent him overseas. 2 years. No warning. He just disappeared. She wiped her face with shaking hands. I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do. Daniel had already proposed. He had a house, a stable job. He was safe. So you married him. I said, I had to choose. She whispered, I had 6 weeks. I chose security. I chose stability. You chose to lie. I chose to survive. She snapped. Then immediately softened. Do you know what it's like to be 23? Pregnant. And alone. I didn't know if Adrian would ever come back. But Daniel was there. He wasn't going anywhere. I stared at her. When did Adrian find out about me? She looked away. He came back. 2 years later. But you were already a year old. I was married. I told him to stay away. I told him you were Daniel's daughter, that he had no rights. Did he believe you? I made him believe me, she said quietly. I threatened him. I told him I'd call the police, that I'd ruin him if he ever came near us again. A cold wave washed over me, and he stayed away for 20 years, she said. Then somehow, he found out the truth. Maybe DNA. Maybe he hired someone. I don't know. About 10 years ago, he started trying to reach out. Through lawyers, through other people. He wanted to meet you. And you said no. I told him you had a family, that you didn't need him complicating your life with the past. The past, I repeated. I let out a bitter laugh that hurt my chest. Mom, you've been punishing me my entire life. Her head snapped up. What are you talking about? Every time you looked at me, you saw him. I said, every time I succeeded. You resented it. Because I wasn't supposed to succeed. I was supposed to be your mistake. Your secret. My voice shook, but I kept becoming someone you couldn't ignore. You threw him away, I said quietly, and every time you looked at me, I reminded you of that. My mother's face twisted. That's not true. Yes, it is. My voice was shaking now, but I didn't stop. You made me pay for everything. Literally everything. Nearly $200,000 in 7 years. She flinched. Every time Vanessa wanted something, you called me. Every time there was an emergency, you called me. Not because you needed help. I swallowed hard. But because it was easier to take from me than to face what you did. Julissa. And the worst part? My chest tightened as the words forced their way out. The worst part is that all this time, there was a man out there who wanted to be my father. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept going. A man who paid for my education without ever telling me, who invested in my company just to be close to me, who stood outside my hospital room for 3 hours because he didn't think he had the right to walk in. I lifted my hand and pointed toward the glass door. That man has been here every single night. My voice broke. And you were on a beach. My mother opened her mouth, her voice trembling. I didn't have a choice. You had a choice. I cut her off. You always had a choice. My heart was pounding now. In 1992, you chose to lie. A breath. Last week. You chose a trip. Another breath. You chose Vanessa. Silence filled the room. You always choose everyone, except me, Julissa. Please. I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again. Get out. She froze. What? Get out of my room. My voice was quiet now. Final. Go home. Tell Daniel the truth. He deserves to know. Her lips trembled. Tell Vanessa she's not getting $28,000. A pause. And don't come back. She stood there, staring at me like she didn't recognize the person in front of her. You can't mean that. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who had carried me for 9 months and spent 32 years pretending I didn't matter. I spent my whole life trying to earn your love. I said quietly. My voice felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. I paid your bills. I funded your vacations. I gave you everything you ever asked for. I swallowed. And you still chose to let me lie here alone. I turned my head slightly toward the door. Now, I'm choosing someone who chose me. My mother stood there for a second longer. Then she turned. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't apologize. She just walked out. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway, growing quieter with every step. I watched her through the glass until she disappeared. And then, I watched someone else walk in. Adrian Cole, 64 years old. Silver hair, blue eyes. My eyes. He stopped a few feet inside the room. Not too close. Not too far. Like he didn't want to cross a line he wasn't sure he was allowed to cross. Neither of us spoke. The machines kept beeping. The lights hummed overhead. Somewhere outside. The hospital moved on. Doctors, nurses, emergencies. Life continuing without pause. But in that room, it was just us. And 32 years of silence. I don't know where to start, he said finally. His voice was deeper than I expected. Steady. But there was something underneath it. Like he was holding back more than he could say. Start with the glass door, I said. The first night. Why didn't you come in? He looked down at his hands, because I didn't know if I had the right. He took a slow breath. 32 years. I watched your life from a distance. Your high school graduation. I was there. Back row. My chest tightened. Your college graduation. I watched the live stream from my office. He paused. Your MBA ceremony. I sent flowers. No name attached. Every word landed heavier than the last. Every important moment of your life. I was there. Just never where you could see me. He looked up at me. That first night, when I saw you through that glass. Tubes everywhere. Machines keeping you alive. You looked so still. His voice lowered. I thought, this is my daughter. And I don't even know if she'd want me here. I felt tears sliding down my face. But you stayed. I whispered. I couldn't leave, he said. And I couldn't go in. So I just stood there, making sure someone was there for you. Even if you didn't know it. I didn't wipe the tears away. The scholarship. I said, that was you. He nodded. 2012. That's when I found out about you. I hired someone. Got a DNA confirmation. A faint, almost sad smile crossed his face. I didn't know how to approach you, so I did the only thing I could think of. I created a scholarship, made sure you qualified. I closed my eyes for a second. And the investment 2021, he said. When I saw you were working at the company, I invested $2 million. He shook his head slightly. Not because I believed in the company, although it worked out, but because I wanted to be close to you. Even if you never knew. My throat tightened. And the hospital bill. He gave a small, almost dismissive smile. That was easy. His expression shifted. You were dying. Someone had to take care of it. You could have walked away, I said. You could have left it to my mother. He repeated the words slowly. Your mother. There was something cold in his voice now. She's been dealing with this for 32 years, by treating you like a reminder of her worst mistake, by taking from you, and giving nothing back. A pause. And by leaving you here, while she went on vacation, he shook his head. I couldn't walk away. Not anymore. Silence settled between us again. I have a question, I said. Anything. Your life? Your family? Did you ever… I was married, he said. 15 years. We divorced in 2017. He looked away briefly. She said I was never really there. That part of me was always somewhere else. With someone else. He looked back at me. She was right. My chest tightened again. No children, he shook his head. I couldn't. I already had a daughter. His voice softened. One I wasn't allowed to know. Starting over. Felt like betraying that. I let that sink in. You gave up your whole life. For someone you couldn't even talk to. He shook his head slowly. No. I gave up some things. He said. But I built others. Hoping one day, they might reach you. The company. The foundation. The investments. He continued quietly. I told myself that even if I couldn't be your father, I could at least make sure you had opportunities, that you would never be limited by money or circumstance. He held my gaze. I know it's not the same as being there. I know it doesn't make up for 32 years. But it was what I could do. I let those words settle. What happens now? I asked. Adrian took a slow breath. That's up to you. He didn't look away. I've waited 32 years. I can wait longer. If you want me to walk out of this room right now and never come back, I will. A pause. Is that what you want? No. The answer came out before I could stop it. His voice cracked. Just slightly. I want to be your father, he said. I want to know what you're reading, what you're thinking, what makes you laugh. He swallowed. I want to have dinner with you on your birthday. I want to be the person you call when something goes wrong. A beat. But I know I haven't earned that. I know you have a father, Daniel. Even if I'm the one who gave you your eyes. His voice softened. I know this is complicated and painful, and there are no easy answers. I looked at him. This man who had never held me, but had never stopped showing up for me either. Then I looked at the empty hallway outside the door. My whole life, I said slowly. I thought love was something I had to earn. I took a breath. I paid their bills. I funded their vacations. I gave them everything they asked for. My voice trembled, and they still chose to leave me here alone. I turned back to him. You didn't owe me anything. I shook my head slightly. I didn't even know you existed. My hand lifted, weak but steady, and you still came. Every single night. I held it out. Will you sit down? Please. For a second. He didn't move. Then he stepped forward, slowly, carefully, and sat in the chair beside my bed. The chair that had been empty for 5 days. For the first time in 32 years. He was on the right side of the glass. I was discharged from Northbridge Medical Center on November 28th, 2 days after my mother left. Adrian drove me home. We didn't talk much during the ride. There was too much to say, and not enough words yet. We had time. 32 years of conversations waiting for us. There was no need to rush. A few days later, I signed the IPO documents over a video call from my apartment. The company went public at $14 a share. My stock options vested at nearly $300,000. For the first time in my life, I had money that was truly mine. Money no one could guilt me into giving away. Vanessa's wedding was supposed to happen on December 8th. It didn't. Without my contribution. The budget fell apart. She tried to scale it down. But her fiancé's family wasn't willing to go through with a smaller ceremony. The engagement ended 2 days before the wedding. My mother called me, over and over. Voicemail after voicemail. Julissa, please, your sister needs you. After everything we've done for you, I deleted them without listening past the first sentence. Everything they'd done for me. A week later, Daniel Pierce filed for divorce. He had finally learned the truth, that the woman he had loved for 32 years had built their marriage on a lie, that the daughter he had raised wasn't biologically his. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He packed a bag quietly and checked into a small motel. He called me once. Julissa, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you more. He said, I always felt like something was missing between us. Now I know what it was. His voice was tired. I hope you find what you're looking for. I told him I hoped he would too. He was a victim in all of this, just like me. On December 22nd, I met Adrian for coffee. It was awkward at first. We didn't know each other's habits, didn't know if the other took sugar or not, didn't know favorite books, favorite movies, favorite memories. But we were learning. Slowly, at one point. He pulled out his wallet and showed me the photograph, the same one Claire had seen him holding in the hospital. A young woman, dark hair, laughing, alive. My mother, I asked. He nodded. I took this in 1992, he said softly. 2 weeks before I left. His thumb brushed the edge of the photo. It was the last time I saw her happy. He put it away carefully. I carried it for 32 years, hoping I'd see that smile again one day, hoping I'd find what I lost. He looked at me then. I didn't find her. A pause. I found something better. His voice softened. I found you. People always say blood is thicker than water, but my blood family left me alone in a hospital room while they went on vacation. For 7 years. They took my money. Not once. Not occasionally. Consistently. They treated me like an ATM with a heartbeat. And yet, a stranger, a man I had never met, stood outside my hospital room for 3 hours because he wasn't sure he had the right to walk in. He paid for my education without ever asking for recognition. He invested in my career just to stay close to me. He paid $142,000 to save my life and asked the hospital to keep his name a secret. So tell me, what is family? Is it the people who share your DNA but make you feel like a burden? Or is it the person who waits outside the glass for 32 years, just hoping to be allowed in? If you would make the same choice I did, walking away from people who only used you and choosing the one who truly cared, then right, I would do the same. Let me know I wasn't wrong to finally choose myself and choose real love over obligation. But if you believe I should have stayed, kept giving, kept forgiving no matter what, then right, I wouldn't do that. Maybe you see family differently. Maybe you believe blood should always come first, no matter the cost. And if you're somewhere in between, still thinking, still unsure, then right maybe. Because the truth is, a choice like this is never easy. It challenges everything we've been taught about loyalty, sacrifice, and love. So I want to hear from you. If you were in my place, what would you do? Are you still here with me? Still listening? If you are, I want to say thank you. Truly. Thank you for staying, for feeling this story with me, for not turning away when it got heavy, because stories like this aren't just meant to be heard, they're meant to be felt. And maybe even reflected in our own lives. What I learned through all of this changed me in ways I never expected. For most of my life, I believed love had to be earned. I thought if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, proved myself enough, eventually, I would be enough for the people I called family. But the truth is, Real love doesn't keep score. Real love doesn't demand that you empty yourself just to be accepted. And real family is not always the one you're born into, but the one that shows up when you need it most. I learned that being strong doesn't mean staying where you're not valued. Sometimes. Strength is walking away. Sometimes. It's choosing yourself. Even when it feels unfamiliar. Even when it hurts. And sometimes, it's allowing someone new into your life, someone who sees your worth without you having to prove it. If you're going through something similar, I want you to hear this. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are absolutely not unworthy of love just because someone failed to give it to you. Take a moment right now. Seriously. Put your phone down for a second if you need to. Take a deep breath. Maybe drink a little warm water. Stretch your shoulders, your neck. Just a small movement to remind your body that you're here, that you're okay, that you matter. Because you do. More than you think. And if this story touched you in any way, if it made you feel seen, understood, or just a little less alone, then I'd love for you to be part of this community, not just as a viewer, but as someone who brings value, empathy, and voice. You can subscribe if you feel this space is meaningful to you. You can leave a comment and share your thoughts, your story, or even just a single word that reflects how you feel. You can like and share this video so it reaches someone else who might need it today. Because sometimes, the smallest action can make the biggest difference in someone else's life. And maybe, together, we can create a place where no one feels like they have to stand alone behind the glass.